Uh,
Oh, yes. It is the year that the rebellion really turns into the Rebel Alliance as the Ghorman Massacre shocks a galaxy and sends Mon Mothma off to lead. It's 2 BBY on Andor, Season 2, Episode 789, The Messenger. Who are you? And welcome to the rebellion. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our third part of 4 really countdown with Andor Season 2. Joining me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend himself from Smirking Gun Reviews, it's Rob Stone.
Hello, everybody out there. Welcome back to talking about every time we come back, it's like, I love the original trilogy, but boy, is this maybe the best thing Star Wars of all time. So I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, you really can't get into more meat and potatoes than what Andor is bringing us. We don't have a Jedi in sight. Well, actually, this episode you kind of do, but honestly, in the coolest possible way. Because the great thing about Andor is that humanistic approach that we are seeing everything from really the ground level. Yeah, we've got Luthen and we've got Mon Mothma and stuff, but this is really the actual struggle on the ground, the boots on the ground of dealing with the evil of the Empire. And this is again where it really all comes down, really comes to the fore, where basically the massacre is so horrid, and that they're able to actually get those messages out at the end. This is what spurs the real collection of all of your desperate forces of rebels across the galaxy into the Rebel Alliance against the Empire. So it's a huge year. There's huge evidence, and I am so glad that we got to focus really so much on the Ghorman Massacre, because nothing is really, I think, shows that the darkness, the evil, the lack of care, than this type of an event, where this is a long planned out destruction of the Gorman people from false fronts and false flags and propaganda, all just to to mine out that juicy calcorite crystal so we could fuel the Death Star. Or no, for the power supply. Again, that it is for the Death Star, still quiet and tucked away. So yeah. Well, let's start things off on Gore, because we got a lot of nice, I think, build up to what was going on. That this is now a year later, everything is coming together. The Empire, the Emperor himself, has made the decision to go forward with this plan. And I really love how we get to see the effects for the Gorman rebels and their internal debate of, do we really strike back, or do we keep this peaceful? That kind of philosophical idea of what's the right way to deal with this. You have Andor, who is being brought in by Wilman to get a chance to take out Dedra, who is behind all of this. You get a potential surgical strike, and then you have the Empire that's like, all of your plans mean nothing. This decision was made a long time ago. You guys are, it's, what was that? It's like in Loki, where they say had Loki hiding in catastrophes and disasters and stuff because there's nothing you can do to change the outcome. That's kind of where we are with this. We get to see everybody's arguments and positionings and attempts to move and negotiate. Even Syril trying to see if he can stem some of this. Um, and it's really all for naught. Again, it's like, you guys are already dead. This fight is already over. and none of you realize that. And I think that's the real kind of like overlying darkness, I think, that hung over these first 2 episodes for me. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Ghorman and how they brought this up?
Well, they needed, before we can get to Rogue One and stealing the plans and other things, there needed the rebellion. Unfortunately for the universe, the galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, there needed to be an inciting incident that was so big that it finally is the thing that goes too far, that puts so many things in motion. And it's really great that Disney Star Wars let this kind of story be told, especially as, I mean, whenever they filmed this, right? I mean, it just became more topical, so I'm surprised that they wouldn't try to go, okay, well, like, we need to Daredevil Born Again some of this, because this is going to bother, 45 to 50% of our audience. But this Ghorman stuff was uncomfortable, tense filled, a little clean,
Sure.
a little stagey looking, but it's just terrifying, like, to watch, like, what had to happen is what I'm saying from the beginning. If something had to happen so bad. So we knew kind of from the beginning of this show, as soon as they brought up this place that they're going to, and we knew we were going to spend pretty much the bulk of the series on this one spot, we knew that something terrible was going to happen. And we get, this progression over the last couple of weeks. And even though it feels longer to me in some ways, that it's only been 3 weeks since we've been watching this, but the events and everything feel so big that it feels like I've been like learning about this for a long time. It's kind of weird how that works sometimes.
Yeah.
But having to sit there and watch it while we know it's all over for these people, it's just a matter of how bad is it going to get, and it just kept escalating and escalating, and seeing all the different characters, even our villains, or people who made bad choices. There are villains in this show, and there are people that are becoming villains, and there are people who made bad choices, and there's people who just made mistakes. They run the gamut here of everything on Ghorman, whether it's the guy who accidentally shoots Cinta, to the who made him accidentally shoot Cinta. That guy's got stuff he's got to deal with Syril and Dedra and the villains that are in the higher power. Like, they love to cut away and just make all these guys villains, and they are, but like, every single one of these people is making choices. It's all stuff that real people that in this world deal with every day. And then having like the rebellion not even realize, they think that there's a certain thing going on here. They're trying to wrestle things up, and it's not until too late that even the rebellion in form of Andor realizes, oh God, it's like Luthen didn't even know about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was all like, oh, we're going to do this thing because she's there, and now this bigger thing opens up. And seeing like everybody's reactions, like there's that scene where Dedra's just looking out at Ghorman at night. It's just a few seconds long. It's like, why is that there? And it's like, because. And she's not the only person who ends up looking out amongst Ghorman. Like, there's a scene with Andor doing it too, of like, what are we about to do? What am I about to do?
Right. Oh, yes.
And Syril too. Everybody that's playing a part in this. And they make you feel like I mean, I don't want to start pulling in our world stuff, but it's scary.
Well,
It made me scared. It made me want to like jump up. And act. I'm like, where do I go? Like, I need to do something. I wanted to get involved with helping these people, but like, and all the different layers that the Empire thought ahead. And even though we knew some of this stuff that was going to happen, it didn't make it any easier once you're faced with it.
Well, and I think it's understandable to like want to pull on current events, and this show certainly in many ways, certainly one we'll get to again later on, pulls on, seems to be very reflective of current events. But Tony Gilroy has been very clear that he does not dealing with current politics. He's pulling from history, which is why we have the French Revolution and the French revolutionaries so much reflected in the Ghorman people and the Ghorman Rebellion and stuff like this. He's pulling from pieces from history. So it's not that current, we're seeing a reflection of current events. We're seeing how current events are reflecting with history. That these are those dark choices that are made, and so, yeah, the fact that we are feeling this is what film is supposed to do. It emotionally, galvanizes us to the story, to these people, to these structures. They reflect it through historical circumstance, and that should be what allows us to be concerned for the current and the future and the directions that we are going. It's always said, those who fail to learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Well, it's if you don't know about the past, you are doomed to repeat it. It's not so much learn as even being aware of is necessary and can make the difference. People just don't like to be exposed to things that make them feel uncomfortable because then they feel guilty. But that is an emotion that can be used positively. That can be used to spur you on to make changes in your life. And that is probably reflected in the most bizarre way with Syril Karn, who is a law and order guy. I mean, that's where we saw him when he was with the corporate security. He was very much on law and order, and this is the way, and we structure society, and we protect people, and then we do it all right, and this is how we go forward. He is a lawful individual. Not necessarily evil, but he is committed to the vision of the Empire because that is what he has grown up in. And we get to see how, in a way, that innocence is what's used by Dedra as to make him the kind of patsy link between the Imperials and the Ghor Rebellion, as somebody who's just trying to help things out. And there's got to be a better way. Because he believes that. That is his truth. And in this, we get to see what happens when all of that is ripped away. And it is, he performs this so well. Just seeing all of those bits, and as he tries to fight back and make a statement like, I what are you talking about? There's this. And we got the old head of the rebellion who's just like, you idiot. What kind of a thing are you? You're not even seeing what's right in front of your face. And how that leads to that confrontation with Dedra at the end, where you could see it's all falling apart, and this repressed, controlled individual is now let loose. Man, I thought that Dedra and him got a weird relationship. When Dedra kisses him earlier, and she's like, get out of town, meet me at home, we're going to do this. My wife's like, man, that felt like face rape. The way that she kissed him, it's like, and he's almost horrified. And then we get it so much turn where he's like almost choking her out, and she's terrified as everything is falling apart around her. I mean, it's just, yeah, I am really glad that they did something interesting with this character, how we could go with him and be like, yeah, he's an adversary, but he's not really evil. certainly not in the way that the Empire is. How we can see that gauge of, hey, there's people that are just following the rules, to the ones that are like, I'm just trying to survive, to what's his name, Captain Cato, who is the Imperial fixer there, that's just like, all right, we're going to shoot our own guys in the back of the head to start this going. I mean, you get the nice whole breadth of darkness in this. But what's your take on Syril's journey, and obviously end of journey with us?
Man, this, like, again, it just feels like I've been living with, and I guess we have. I mean, it was a long time ago that the first season came out. But like looking back on it now that he's gone, right? And really looking at the character, we want to be, like, oh, screw this guy because he wants to get, he wants Andor to pay. And it's like, well, technically, Andor murdered 2 people. Now, whether it was it was, he was protecting himself, but he killed 2 people. I should say that. Or for the algorithm, he unalived a couple of people in self-defense. But he should at least, technically on the law, he should be brought in at least for questioning. Like, this is a guy who like is just super about the rules and how to do things, and I can actually relate to that in some ways. I'm like, when it comes to like what I do, for my work, I am that. I can be like Syril.
Sure.
I can be the guy that you might not like me every day that I work with you, but we will get things done right, or we won't do them at all. Like that kind of thing. I'm here. I'm much, when I'm not clocked in, I am not that way like all the time. So I really can at least respect that, even if fictionally, narratively, I'm supposed to be mad at this guy. But then you start to see more about him, how he ended up this way. Like you said, this is all he knows. He grew up with this, with his mother, who like has been feeding him not just abuse, but like she's been filling his head full of all kinds of stuff. Now, thankfully, he's the kind of guy who, like, when she says things about the Ghorman people and he knows he's lived among them, he's like, I don't think you know what you're talking about. You're listening to the wrong people. But he cares about his job. He found this woman who really likes her job too. It was kind of like, when you really look at it, he's just a guy going through life.
Yep.
And his search for meaning and purpose of his own, thinking he's doing the right thing, thinking he's helping, because he has no reason to know that she's been directed to lie and obfuscate everything and manipulate him, all in her head, meaning, but it's all for the greater good, and when it's all over, you won't care that I did this because we got the results we wanted, and it won't matter how we got here, right? Because she doesn't understand that he's not like her.
Right.
She had to come to his rescue with his mother. You know what I mean? He might be law and order, but she's Imperial. She's going to put that woman in her place. He's still going to treat her like his mom, and unfortunately be towed to that kind of abuse. Who knows for how long? And then to finally be out there on mission, trying to do what he's wanted to do. And all of a sudden, when he's given that opportunity, he sees that he's being fought with by the people that he's supposed to be there helping. And the people that he's trying to, help, like the Ghorman people, they don't want that kind of help. And so he still thinks that these are just misguided people. And when he realizes that he's the one that's been misguided, and what's really going to happen here, and how it is possible to open someone's eyes to the lies you've been told, Unfortunately, a lot of these people are kind of like Syril. They have to see it.
Yeah.
They have to witness horror. For some reason, people telling you the truth isn't enough. You actually have to let the horrible thing happen and then go, oh, no. I didn't know it was going to be like that. We're living with a lot of that right now, too. But he actually tries. I mean, he knows there's only so much he can do. He can't even get those people out of there. And when he finally goes to her, right? Like you were talking about the kiss, which I mean, it was a manipulative kiss.
Oh, yeah.
In her brain, this is how they're not on the same page and probably never were. Was I think she thought that this still was some kind of like thing about love and affection and doing anything for her. And if I just do this thing that is out of the ordinary, where I am at my job, which is, if they saw her, like kissing him, in her head, this is a risk for me too.
Sure.
But it's still just totally manipulative. And when that look of horror is because this isn't what he's looking for. He doesn't want to be kissed right now. This isn't going to sell me. I already know now even more that you're trying to shut me up. And still, it's not until the stormtroopers are rolling up and they're barricading the place and he has to force his way in to find out what's going on. He has to be put in a room full of K2SOs.
Jeez, yeah.
And he's the wife being put in the bunker, so when he finally goes up and chokes her, I mean the ultimate, he's had plenty of time and he's seen enough to know that is this who you think I am? I think there's a lot unsaid. And he's so frustrated because of all he set out to do has been warped to kill all these people. And he's now responsible for it. She's the one doing it. He feels like the biggest dupe in the world. And yeah, so he goes in to choke her because that's what, if somebody did that to me, I don't know what I'd do. And I don't think he was ever going to kill her. But
no, I think it was that just, emotion.
But, he's lucky. She's lucky. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. The acting in this, when he's like, if you even think of saying it's a rumor, I'm going to throw you right out the window. I mean, this actor brought it every episode and culminates in this episode where it just, by the time he sees Andor.
Oh, yeah.
The only time these characters have seen each other in the flesh. I mean, of course, there is the name of my pain. He's right here. This might be all be wrong, but he's here. And he doesn't even realize that he saved her life. It's a little bit that annoyed me because, I mean, I knew right from jump that she wasn't getting assassinated.
Right.
From a sniper bullet. It just wasn't happening all the times. No, okay.
No, it's romantic that he saves her, but it's also kind of perfect that he has no idea that he does.
Has no idea that he does it, and then after a brutal fight, and I'm glad that they let him really go. To be asked almost in the same way that he didn't know that he saved her, when he realizes this guy doesn't even know that I've been after him. That whole realization of this has all been me. This guy could care less. He does not know who I am. And in that blank moment of just kind of, what have I done with my life kind of moment, he's taken out. And I was actually kind of shocked by that, even though it was I was waiting for it to come. I kind of wanted something else to happen because I actually like this character now, and now they kill him when he's finally become fully realized.
Yeah, I was wondering what they were going to end up doing with Syril. I mean, 'cause there's a point where I was like, is he going to turn and join the rebellion? You know, because usually there's no enemy is worse than a true believer who has been rebuffed. You know, it's the ones that are fully committed, and when they find out that it's a lie, they are the most dangerous enemies because they have this internal betrayal driving them. So I was really curious for quite a bit, especially as he's wandering through and what's going to happen. And then he sees Andor. It's like, how is this going to be? And even through the fight, when he has that moment, you know, it's like, is this going to turn around? And you're right. And then he dies. And I think that it's not only just like this guy doesn't even know who I am. I think for Syril, he has tried so much to prove himself and be a part and grown and be recognized. And not only does he realize that everybody else knows what's going on except him, that he's the total patsy in the midst of this. That's why the Gore rebels are like slapping him and pushing him around and stuff. They're just like, you're an idiot. You don't even know what's going on. To now Andor, his nemesis, has no idea who he is.
Which also can be thrown to himself. Like, who am I?
Who am I?
Who am I?
And I think,
it's too late. Your choices have led you all the way, and now you're not even going to be remembered for anything. Poof. The only one who remembers is his mom. And I'll be honest, the way that they held on that shot of her watching the news, all I could think of was the only reason to hold on her like that, to me, narratively, is saying she already hated the people on Ghorman, and now, like, all the lies that she takes in watching her TV, she's now having that reinforced even more because her son has been killed by Ghormans.
Yeah.
And you could just sit there and look at her face and her weeping and them telling her more. These people killed your son. It's how you keep these people believing bullcrap. You know?
Oh, and the Imperial propaganda machine couldn't feel more timely than all of these news around the edge of the plaza just constantly feeding out. I mean, I love that moment even when Syril's trying to get in and he's hearing the propaganda going through the news stations. And I think that was kind of the real moment where it hit him, because he's like, that's all bullshit. I know you're just the reality of all. I think that's what spurned him so much to react against Dedra at that moment. It was just like, but yeah, I mean, that's
one thing after another just kept popping his brain.
Yeah.
All of it just misfire. Like, what?
Yeah. But I gotta say, you know, that again, that news position of feeling how this narrative just gets fed in and the words that we choose. And I mean, I don't care. I'm not a Fox News watcher. But much of my family has been conservative, and as you know, you go and you say people places and you listen to the news in the background because for some reason it's always on in the background. You pick up these repeated phrases that are used constantly over and over again. You know, far left radicals, you know, the socialist agenda, the
woke mind virus,
all of these things just repeated over and over again. And if that's all that you get, it just programs into you. So it's interesting that you say that, because I'm thinking like, oh, here's a moment where even the mom is regretting and missing her child. But you're right. All of that's going to be filtered with this acceptance of the narrative that's being fed her, and she is just going to become more ingrained into that side. And it's a really dark way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Now
these are dark times.
I do want to touch on Dedra
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Because the performances, like you said, just going on from the beginning where she's having to deal with Partagas, who is like, well, this is what's been decided. You're gonna have to do it. And you can tell she's been like, I'm just holding on to it because there's got to be a way that this doesn't have to happen. Because she's the one that came up with the idea, because she knows it's the way to do it. But even her is like, I don't really feel comfortable doing this type of thing. And how she just like has to deal with the psycho Imperial fixer there. Was it Kato? Kaido? I gotta assume it's Kaido, because it can't be Kato. With very interesting scar. There was a moment where I actually had to go back and look, because he has this little scar on the side, and they kept it out of frame for like most of the episode, and then he turns in and it looks like a fresh cut. And all I'm thinking was, did we skip a scene? Was something edited out? I literally had to go back to the first episode, the previous episode when he was introduced, to see that he still had it, because I was like, this feels... Anyway, it was just odd. It's like, that doesn't look like a scar. That looks like someone just like threw glass at him. But having to deal with that type of psychopath who is obviously like all ready to just like, I got some green troops I can sacrifice there in the yard, and I've got snipers that will take them out and start this whole thing going.
Well, I mean, for her part, you know, it feels like finding out that your role, this well thought out, this is how we do it role, was also window dressing.
Yeah.
So she gave Syril a fake bunch of shit to do, and so is she. And it's just a thing that they had to do. They don't want complete mask off yet. They're still building the Death Star. They're still pretending that, you know, no, don't worry about all that. Don't worry about any of that. The same thing that we've been hearing now. Don't worry about that. No, well, we're not going to do any of that. No. Then it happens, and everybody's like, you said you wouldn't. So it's the same old thing, except she's now like, what a play on such a large scale to have such a monumental amount of money and resources put into something that's not real. It's put in there to just look like we're trying.
Yeah. Well, and even to the point when Kaido's like, I'm the gun, you're I'm the trigger, you're the finger.
Yeah.
And your only job is to say yes when you're told to say yes.
Yep.
So
sit back and watch.
Despite all of this, she is also just a cog in the machine. And her contribution at this point absolutely means nothing. She just has to like say proceed when she is ordered to tell them to proceed. And just be that part, which
I loved how every time she was trying to speak, they were like, you know, you're being like freaked out. Like you're being way too like you got to calm down. Like, but in that way of like the way that like he says it, I can't say his name. It's like Partagas, where he's just sitting there like, and she's not really overreacting, but they're calling it an overreaction. Like, she's acting like a human being. She's trying to not act like a human being.
Trying to not be the cog in the machine and be a person. And they're like, shut up, be the cog. That's your job, is a cog.
Is that you don't worry. You're all taken care of. Nobody's going to say you screwed anything up, blah, blah, blah. Like, he doesn't get that she's struggling to, I'm trying to be Imperial right now and I'm failing because I actually have a conscience. It's not an act.
Yeah.
I'm killing my conscience. I am destroying myself for you so that I can rise in the ranks. And now I've realized, oh shit, this is how I rise in the ranks. And like her shaking and everything. And it's we've only got 3 episodes left. I don't see this ending well for her.
No, I do not either.
And it's going to be probably like almost a welcome death. It will probably be a welcome gift to this person at some point, or it'll again be like, why should I be surprised that I'm being betrayed? It's actually kind of a fun. Alan Tudyk,
Yeah.
who's the voice of K2SO, said on Firefly, remember when the dinosaurs were fighting, and he's like, oh, the inevitable betrayal. I can't believe it. Oh, how did this happen? It could be that way of like, I did everything I was supposed to. I gave up everything. And it's a kind of a message throughout, giving everything. Syril gave everything he could to this.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And he was screwed over by them. And,
well, and I think
Luthen saying, I've given everything. What have you given? Andor saying he's given everything. All these people are giving everything. And this is Dedra trying to give everything. And it's just not going to matter in the end.
Well, because, yeah, her reaction, actually, she feels, Syril is dead. The whole thing is falling apart.
She doesn't even know yet, though.
And she is like tearing at her clothes. It's like, I'm tearing at my identity as she's trying to smooth things out. Like, but the control will put it in play. You can see all of that just going off. And again, like Syril, she's raised in the Imperial Kinderblock, which I'm sure was a very loving place. So she has no idea how to really express this. The one person she ends up caring for, she has to betray, and who basically leaves her. And then it all goes to hell. Yeah, that moment where she is, struggling with her very identity and self. And, it's like trying to tear off your skin and smooth it all down at the same time. I would not be surprised, and I think it would be an interesting bit if by the end of our final arc, she betrays the Empire to Andor and starts the ball rolling on the Death Star, on the Death Star plans or something like that. Ends up being that final cog in that sense. I guess not cogs, her step to self, but that kills her. Like, she dies trying to do that.
I would venture to say that, like Syril's death, because I think that Syril's like, as much as I was like, oh man, I now want to know more about this character, the way he was taken out was perfect.
Yeah,
it said so much about just the rant, and I was annoyed that it was a guy we knew. Of course, it story wise, they loved to have it be the old guy who, like, I came back and somehow didn't get shot, and now I get to kill the guy who betrayed us, right?
Sure.
Powerfully. That's so Shakespearean. But it should have just been some dude. It should have just been anybody. Because that's how I loved it. It was just so cold and just done. He's here. He's gone. That's what happens. And when it's like that, I love that. So I would almost say that Dedra, her going is probably, I would love, story wise, I think it would be great to go that way, but I think it's going to be more like how often a lot of Imperial officers die by their own people.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it'll be some sort of, I would prefer almost the coldness of just matter-of-factly, you did everything and you're still just getting taken out like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that would make a lot of sense in the way that everything is.
Yeah, narratively, we always want to see the big, like, she does the right thing, but honestly, I think that the better story is that she doesn't do the right thing. She does the wrong thing, even though, to them, the right thing, and still dies because it's not good enough.
Yeah. Or final shot is transfer papers.
Or you showed a little weakness, maybe she gets caught trying to, like, there would be a thing is, what if she's trying to help and gets caught? Now that
That would be an interesting. There would be, yeah, definitely some
because
possibilities
it's that
there.
pull that rug out from under the character that's trying to, like, you know, because again, that's life. That's just life. You know.
Before we leave Ghorman here, I do want to throw out, and again, if there's any other points that we didn't hit on that you want to touch, let me know. The bellhop, now front desk clerk at the hotel, fucking loved him. I loved his calm and cool and going in, and I'm like, oh, is he going to recognize this? Is he going to say anything? But no, it's just at the end, like, that sign of recognition. Oh, by the way, they do it the next morning. You'll have to bring your own bags up. You know the way. Just the perfect subtle way of, like, I know, I remember you, but I've got you covered. Because I don't
You were
think
never here.
Yeah.
I didn't log you in.
I mean, that was so great. I loved that callback.
Yep.
Just the nonchalant.
We don't know what happened to him either.
No, he threw the grenade and we saw the explosion from the outside. And, you know, in my head canon, I want to think that he got away.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sam, who, yeah, is the one who killed Cinta, is the one that saves him and runs into K2S. That there was a reason why I didn't kill you, so this would drive you forward, and this did in this moment.
He's the only one that lived. They all dropped.
Yeah,
every single one of them. And speaking of dropped, when the K2SOs came out, and the girl suddenly couldn't walk anymore, like I'm just on the ground. I can't get up.
Oh yeah, I mean,
get out of here with that.
There are through this several of those moments that are kind of like a little weak, but
somebody try to start a car right now. Oh no.
That's the rules of cinema. The car can't start immediately. It has to wait till the last minute. Yeah, and these things throw you. They kill you when you land.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if some of that really should have happened, but they were effective in their terrifyingness from the moment Syril walked in that room and they just turned their, like, cold robotic heads towards to as they're wandering down the street, just grabbing and throwing people and just,
Willman, who we see earlier, I felt like a real rebel finally. Then to suddenly be like, no man, I gotta go back for the girl again. After being all hard ass and acting like a real rebel, he still runs after the girl. Now, yeah, I'm glad he's alive. I'm glad that she got out. But still, it should have been more cold. It should have been. I'm sorry. If I'm being not a fan of the Hollywood type narrative.
You unromantic bastard.
Unromantic. This is a cold story. I want coldness. You're right. She's screwed. Sorry. It's you. Like, we have to survive to keep doing more of this. Just like she's got to try to survive. This is, blah, blah, blah. It sucks, but that's life. Again, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they deviate from that in this show, I get annoyed because I'm like, you guys have it you were so close to being absolutely perfect that if you could just get rid of a few of these cliches, man, just a few, you'd be like,
Sure. I have to admit, I am a bit of a sucker. So when he ends up making it and his girlfriend helped bring him out and he doesn't die on the ship back, but they're like, yeah, he's hurt, but he'll be okay. He's young. I did appreciate that.
Yeah. In the narrative side, there is a soft side to me. I'm just saying the narrative, the story guy says that's stupid.
Yeah. But they killed everybody else.
My heart still was like, oh, thank God. Right. I can separate the two. I can have two separate, like, two things going at the same time.
Also, I do have to say, they have done an awesome job of aging him without being ridiculous. just the little change of where his facial hair has grown, and obviously he aged a year or two in between seasons 1 and 2, but even between the previous year episodes where we see him, he looks younger and a different age. In the Saw scene, he doesn't look as old, and he looks older now and more mature than he did back then. So with the small changes plus what the actor is doing, honestly, that is the best time has passed for this character jumps maybe that I've ever seen, certainly in recent memory. All right, let's jump back a little bit, or sideways maybe slightly, to Yavin. Which as we see now is an up and running rebel base. They're building things up. We're starting to see characters that we will see later on in Rogue One, the rebel leader and Donovan and all that stuff. And we get the relation stuff with Bix. And I gotta say, this was probably my least interested section here, just because it always feels there's a point they got to do with the character with like, I got to step away and I can't be this person anymore. And I always just get annoyed with that shit. We have him again repeating the constant, it has to be my decision. The minute I'm not free to come and go as I want, I'm out of here. There's that, don't tell me what to do type kind of rebel thing. Whereas I felt in the first 2 blocks, this is somebody who is part of the Rebel Alliance. He's a rebel. He's committed to the cause. So I got to say, this kind of like back and forth annoyed me a little bit. But not, again, it wasn't a game killer or anything like that. I get where they end. He's in a nice place with Bix. He's feeling that relationship thing, and maybe there's a way where we can have a future. Bix obviously has a different point of view and then just leaves at the end. I didn't know how they were going to deal with this. I'm not sure if I like any of the choices so far, and maybe she ends up dying off screen next block, or on screen or whatever. But I know you love me, but we can't be together because you're destined for greater things, man. You got to do the big. This is the most tropish part of a third act bridge that personally just kind of annoyed me. However, and I'll touch on this and then we can jump back and go into it anymore if you want. The Force healer little part, I freaking loved. And I loved that it wasn't too much and felt very natural. And my work is massage therapy, and we do hippie energy balancing and stuff like this. And my wife is a whole next level kind of thing. And maybe I have a soft spot because like this is what my wife does. As inexplicable and everything is, it was like, this was just the heightened version of seeing that. And I love that it was very simple and more spiritual without being defined and thrown in your face. And how it was just this kind of, there's something to you. You're doing something kind of thing, but without knowing what it is and without putting names and labels on it. I thought that it was handled as a way to bring this idea in, I guess, in the most grounded way possible, which is what this series is all about. So what are your thoughts on Andor and the Bix Andor relationship things and all of that?
Well, I have to agree in the end, because what did we say at the end of the last arc, right? He's no good for her. So what do they do to answer that? They make us think, okay, there's stuff that just happens off screen. And I think that that's part of the problem. Is he takes her to get her revenge. They blow the place up, and now she's in it. They're in it together. And now we're going to see them be rebels together, but we don't. They leave that all out.
Yeah.
And we know that he's been hurt. It's aggravated him. It's probably a big for him to use his whole like, oh, I don't know anymore, because I agree that trope is stupid. The I don't know, man, I just can't do it, blah blah blah. But since we didn't get to see that, now she's just good and she's healthy, and it's great to see the character be healthy. But again, narratively, it doesn't work as well. If they could have, because they could have just skipped the whole revenge thing and just had her still be a mess. It would have made more sense, because they didn't really do anything with it.
Yeah.
Now he's just, oh, we're gonna get out, and now she gets to be the one to leave, saying, I'm in your way. And it's like, no, it was never that way. And if they were working together, I thought that what they were trying to do really was say, if he won't help, we need you. But they didn't do that either. They just kind of left it so it feels like maybe they wrote themselves, okay, we want this, but then this. We either get rid of her here or we get rid of her here. And somebody said, well, we want to have her around longer. So let's, and the character, again, for all we know, we don't know how it's going to turn out for her. She could end up just having a nice old life.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere. And great for her. Yay. Because, yeah, it was tough. It was horrible. It was horrifying what she's gone through. And so, yeah, the softy in us wants her to ride off into the sunset. But narratively, it just doesn't work as well because it doesn't make as much sense. She should be with him. They are rebels together. This whole I can't do it crap, you were doing it together. And it's just the whole push on of fate and destiny thrown in here. And you were put before me, when I needed you, and all these things. And that whole business is a little just silly to me.
Sure.
Of like, he has like, but when the force user or the untrained healer that is able to use the force, that's how I look at it. She was, like, if you look at her age, she was probably either a Padawan or somebody just who hasn't been trained at all, and just has some, lives in her village. And you can almost tell from this story that the Jedi are already become, think about this, it hasn't even been 2 decades and people have forgotten the Jedi. That part of the lore seems kind
that
of...
is the weakest part. It shouldn't have been 20 years. It should be like 40 or 50 years.
Longer than that. People are going to be talking about space wizards. Like, if somebody tells you about space wizards, it's going to be a story that goes a long time.
Sure. But
so I feel like it was 1,000 years, maybe. Like if it, or even a few hundred years, we go, well, that was just a bunch of nonsense. Like, when we get told things like, like mythology and stuff, like we all know that didn't happen. There's a bunch of things that we get told that didn't really happen. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm getting off into the weeds.
No, yeah, but yes, it's a lot for 20 years, even with, honestly, Dedra being raised in a kinder block. She's not old enough to have all that happening, but
this lady who touches him and says, like, what I love is like she helped him, but he really kind of healed her. Her touching him and doing something for him helped her in that spirit, she said, of like, there's something in, like, the spirit that this isn't, that I haven't wasted my time, that it's not hopeless. There are people like this guy that whatever I sense in him of like the drive to stop this, that the human fighting spirit that she feels inside this guy, and that he has been, every experience of his life is driving him towards a moment. And that's where she starts to lose me, because I think but I do get the overall message of somebody. As you're living your life and you start to pick up and you're in kind of a lane that does seem that you're a trajectory that you're on, I can see that. I could understand that a lot more, and that makes a lot of sense. Of like, and that he's a messenger. He's the kind of person that whatever they're going to do is going to ripple out. People are going to know about it. It's less destiny and fate and more like this person. Sometimes you just don't even know where you're headed. I certainly don't always know where I'm headed, and sometimes you take a step back and you go, oh my god, I actually did what I set out to do and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Not even consciously. So
Well, she interestingly says, thanks. It's been a long time since I've had that type of clarity. And you're right. I think what she sees in him is that clarity of purpose. He is dedicated to a thing. And, you know, Bix is an important part of all of this. But for him, it's, I mean, we know that he has a straight line to dying, retrieving the Death Star plans. We know what his destiny is. And this whole journey that we have has been, how does he get to that point? So in a way, you could be, especially in a galaxy of lies and obfuscation, where the dark side has permeated out so much to have confused and you know, kept the Jedi from seeing clearly and all this type of stuff, and who has only gotten stronger and bigger. That to run into somebody who is in the midst of all this chaos of people just trying to find a moment, to find like one guy that has a straight line towards some point. Yeah, you imagine that's probably like, oh my God, somebody just turned on a light for a moment and I could see.
yeah,
Wow, that was cool.
it makes me envious, man. It makes me like, man, you know, like it makes you want to have like makes me at least want to feel like, man, where am I going? Where am I headed? Yeah. Like, you know, like where are the things that some of my choices or some of my thoughts or desires or whatever, where will that take me if I really want to?
Mm-hmm,
you know, and it's just an interesting character. I mean, ever since we first saw him in Rogue One and we're introduced to him, and immediately what stood out to everybody? He's a rebel and he shot another rebel.
Yeah.
And now it's like all this time later, understanding why, all the aspects of like, we don't know any of these characters and everything. And now it's going to be really interesting. At some point, you're going to be able to watch Star Wars from a certain point and get the whole story, even if you'll have to watch like a million things.
Yeah.
You will somehow get
Star Wars.
The entire Star Wars. Like if you go, I don't even remember where you would really start. If you start, yeah, you can't. You'd have to right now. You'd have to start it. God, never mind.
Yeah, it'd have to be episode 1 because I don't think we've shot anything prior to that yet. Though I'm sure some Old Republic stuff and things will be coming. But yeah, you'd be watching like 70 years of over the whole time period. 30 to another 30. Yeah, 70 plus years, 75 years. Be like a diamond anniversary, man. No, I'm sorry.
Oh man, that would be a project. I'm sure there's somebody that's done it by now.
And it would take you that long in order to watch it all. Well, let's hit our kind of last point then, which is our final episode. And one thing I got to say, I love how our first episode, The Messenger, kind of covered a couple places. All of episode 2 is just the Ghorman Massacre and everything. That's how you spent your time appropriately. So in this last bit, it's mainly Coruscant with a little bit of Yavin stuff. When we see how,
I completely. I'm like, man, we've been talking, and I'm like, oh shit, that's right, we got the whole like Mon Mothma thing.
Now, honestly, I've got the least amount of notes because as many things happened in this, it's also one of the most straightforward because it really does all revolve around getting Mothma to do her speech and then getting her out of there. You know, they start up great. We had previously the Ghorman ambassador had thanked Mon because he was seeing the cards were on the wall and shit was probably going to go down. Now, as we jump back to it, he is being arrested. Stormtroopers in the Senate. I believe is what's called out, with no charges, no warrant. They just went and picked him up. Sounds kind of familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to say Wisconsin.
Yeah, something like that. Then we get, kind of our whole maneuvering bit. Which again, there's kind of lots of cool bits. I love that her assistant works for Luthen, but he's smart because when she's like, "Hey, my driver's asking too many questions. I need to get a new driver," and he's like, "No, they might send a smart one. We know this guy's an idiot." I mean, little stuff like that. I love.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was totally a mistake to destroy the bugging device. If you find a bug, you leave it alone. You don't let them know that you have found it. And yes, then you have to have your conversations elsewhere. That's what broom closets are for, people. The speech itself, again, honestly, the way that they cut, because they were building so much tension around all of it, I didn't feel like we really got a focus on her speech. Which kind of bummed me out, though I also know it's one of those things that have been covered by Star Wars lore and such in many ways. So maybe there, was a reason to not put so much of a focus onto it and more of just the danger that saying it was going to be and how much everybody was trying to fight to stop her or, in one form or another. The fact that it was really centered around truth and lies and how much the truth has been obscured and how much it's not respected and it's almost a false thing. Again, this was another one of those points where, drawing from history, this is how all of this stuff worked. This is how fascists come into power. This is how dictatorships become formed. There are playbooks on this. The fact that it sounds like right now in our world isn't the show just being smart. It's a warning. It's a warning that truth.
The whole thing about truth. I mean, that warning bell was sounded a long time ago.
So I did appreciate that, but yeah, well, I don't want to go to. There's a little bit more to cover on this, but what's your take on our last little bit and Mothma's leaving and obviously Benjamin Bratt definitely being more Bail Organa. It wasn't just for one scene.
No, I this was all just, again, really tense. We know who lives and who dies, but it's how we get there. It really was about the journey, and they did a hell of a job at doing it. It made me think a little bit of the first season finale of Severance, a little bit of like, we've only got so much time, we got to get her out of here, and we're like, the one guy's got to stay and try to hold them off while they go and like get everything. Like, it was all really well done. The fact that this is her introduction to like, okay, you've been the money, you've been hiding, you've been trying to be secretive, and you're like, her husband and daughter disappeared from the story. Yeah. Which I'm fine with. They just poof, like, she's going off with the rebels. Cool. They wouldn't have gone anyway, right? So, but this is her kind of like wake up of like, she's felt all these feelings, but she hasn't seen anything.
Yeah.
She hasn't been there. She hasn't experienced anything. She's been trying to protect herself. She's been trying to protect. It's not that she hasn't. It's a different kind of situation. But she's also there's also still that kind of very, to me, like the haves, her position of power and protection. And suddenly, she's feeling that bubble go away. And, oh, what do I do? And it's like, the rest of us have been doing this forever, lady.
Now you're back down into the dirt with everyone else.
Things when she finally witnesses him shoot the assassin, then shoot her driver, and it's like, this is what it takes. What did you think was going to happen? We told you had to get out of here. We also found out that, you know, you were going to be attacked by the people you had to get out of here. Like all the plans within plans that have already been set to take you out in just the thought that you would give this speech. And the thing about, like, the thing I guess that I liked a lot about this whole part was the Luthen factor.
Yeah.
Her, like how at the beginning when Willman says to Andor, what do you think you treat him like he's the enemy? He's like, if it was only that easy. And same thing with her. Same thing with anybody that deals with this guy is, when am I next? Who's expendable? How do I know you didn't send those people? How do I know that this guy coming to help me is not you getting rid of me like you did my other friends?
Cinta picking up her old buddy. Yeah.
And that fear of, like, and him saying, well, we're all bent by our secrets now. Like, this is what it's took. This is where we are. I am damned. I know it. You know, it's like, but this is what, like, or as Saw says, like, rebellions aren't for the sane. Like, the decisions you're going to be having to make to fight back are going to seem crazy. Because it's just, nobody really realizes what it takes until you can plan and you can hope that it doesn't happen. When you're faced with it, you have to really deal with it, and it's not always going to be pretty. But then, what does that do to your relationships? Like, these people's relationships, are whatever friendships they had or closeness they had, it's all over. It's all really over. It's all just like shadows of the past, and now they only have right now, here and then, to forego all of it to get to win, to beat the Empire, and trusting people that you don't know how to trust or should trust. And it's just, I loved even how they did the Senate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and how that still is the same, like, process of, like, it looks a little different now, but, like,
yes. And can I just comment again at how amazing their location and construction crew is? The places all look just amazing. And I'm like, you finding like more opera houses in Sydney that we didn't know about, or these flying areas over? It's like, I don't know what's real and what isn't. The seamlessness is astounding. Yeah, look,
I want to live in his Yavin apartment.
Oh God, that's
want that
the
place,
dopest
man.
place.
Swiss Family Robinson, you know, eat your heart out.
I know, man. They do give, Andor does get like the nicest pads.
Oh man, yeah. These so everything with her is great, and it also made me really think. And I was talking about this earlier about, like, how much I like Syril and all these things, and I'm like, I'm trying to think of anybody in this story throughout the entire thing. Then I'm like, I think I like everybody in this, every character in this. And I think the only one who's been done dirty is Bix. I think she might be the only one that's been, there's been a couple of people that have died, like, oh, you know, but I think I like every character on this show, from, like, because, like, Clea and even Willman, who I thought was just going to be annoying, like, all the, and I don't mean like the French resistance people, they are like forgettable and kind of annoying, or, you know, like the guy that did help on Ferrix, he got done dirty a little bit too, but, you know, he did have his moment of, like, acknowledging to the guy, I'm not getting you in trouble. I'm going to die heroically. Everybody is watchable. Everybody feels real. And I especially love Clea so much. His Luthen's right-hand woman or person, whatever.
She's awesome.
That's like watching this episode of everybody kind of come together. Erskine, who he'd just been around for a minute, and I'm already like, yeah, this guy's great too. You know, like, even in the bad guys, the Imperials, like, every character is watchable, even when they're being terrible.
Oh yeah, the guy who plays Partagas.
Even Benjamin Bratt, I'm like, that's fine. Just let him be Bail Organa. He's fine. Nothing against Jimmy Smits, but this guy's good. He's good.
He's delivering it. He's got the look. Fine,
But
perfect.
then you have like, I did like the touch of like, well, you're not getting her out of here. We're gonna make a big show of it. And again, that would be a thing. We need the message out, so we're gonna like. The smart play is just getting her there. They're doing a way more risky thing, trying to make a big thing about it. But
Yeah.
narratively, they want, and it would be that they need to change the narrative themselves. They don't want the Empire to keep holding on to the truth or saying what's the truth. We need to like tell the actual truth as many people as we can. And I don't know.
Well,
I
yeah,
have
and
no
that's
idea where we're going in the end and at the end of this, because now he's got the robot. So
yeah. We got to kind of tighten up and put him on the trajectory line by next bit. I was curious how they were going to handle the Mon escape because, of course, in Star Wars Rebels, Gold Squadron picks her up and she does a whole speech that calls in the vast rebel forces, and that's what starts the Rebel Alliance. And I'm like, are they going to reference that? Are they going to do that? How are they going to do it? And that's when they're like, yeah, you got her out of the Senate. We've got another group that's going to take her off planet, and she's got to give this big speech.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I was curious how they were going to handle it, and I got to say, nicely done. Nicely kind of simply done. I mean, maybe a little easy, like, oh, wait a minute, we got to back into this other show right here. Okay, great job, Andor. Okay, now she's got to go and you got to go. You're going to take different flights. That's how this all works. But the way the rebellion does work with small little bits and not one group doing too much so that nobody can really get, that sort of makes sense. And that they do want to keep their already established lore and story. I always appreciate when they can do that in a decent way. Escape wise, I did want to hit on two things. One, you're talking about Luthen, totally right. And I think that the fact that he is kind of, like the spy master of the rebellion, he is the one that has to cut ties and do things. And that the paranoia at this bit when Mon has gotten in so deep and now literally her entire world is going to change. And she goes from being on top in the safe kind of like higher level to running and shooting and the real danger of life, how that paranoia comes in. But I appreciate that Luthen's like, I owe you. You were always there. That for him, there is something about loyalty. That he will cross it. And yeah, if she was actually going to be captured, would he have Andor take her out or something like that? Yes, of course. But he would do everything to keep that from happening. And that's just, to me, again, everybody, all these people are good people trying to do the right thing. It's just how much are they willing to do that's bad in order to get to that right thing, and what aren't they going to give up? So I love the tension of that scene, and I love that Luthen's like, I understand you're paranoid, but no, I got your fucking back. I owe you. And I'm going to send the best person I know. In some ways, this is the one time that we link everybody together, which is a really freaking cool bit. And then it ends up in the apartment, in the escape house that Andor was in, so you could have that little kind of like soft moment with Mon. I thought that was great, which was needed considering the tear that she went through when he starts taking out people. I love the face off with the ISB agent, and her assistant's like, she's a rebel spy. Turns, and that's what gives him the moment to shoot. Again, beautiful. And then the driver's coming up. What's his name? Clovis. Hey, Clovis, huh? Bam. It's so cold, but again, he's got to do what he's got to do. We have seen how he's gotten to this point, and like you mentioned before, this is that bridge that we know when we see him in the opening of Rogue One, why he's a person that would go, if I have to kill you, I have to kill you, because the goals of the rebellion are more than any of us are individually. And this is how he gets to that point. And I freaking love that.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, the whole K2SO, great, cool. I'm glad that we have Alan Tudyk on there, and that'll be fine the next. To me, that was just that the whole final Yavin stuff was just the bridge that we're going to set to whatever our next lax section was. And it was, again, handled all nice and fine. Obviously, Captain Andor is now committed to the rebellion that Bix is gone. They were going to give you a promotion, but you kept running away and doing stuff, man. Stop being a rebel and be a rebel. Fuck. Anyway, any other things that you want to touch on this before we wrap things up here?
Just again, that I'm so impressed with the crafting of the show, the writing of the show, the characters. Like I said, I seeing the last episode and having everybody kind of be in this episode and seeing each other, and the fate of Syril and what's going on with I look at all this as a whole. It's not over yet, but this almost felt like a finale.
Oh yeah.
Like if this was it, it'd be like, oh, okay, K2SO is turned on, burp, right to Rogue One. They could have done that. Well, we have 3 more episodes to slice and dice through some of this cast, I guess. But I can't believe how many of these characters I like. As far as just watching them, whether they're bad or good, the actors in this are able to get these fully realized people that act like people. Lev's whole thing where she's talking about like what happened to her and what she's been doing, and even though she doesn't have a big part to play in this, there's like this, like, it's good to see her in this still and telling us what happened and how she knew she was being reckless, to just all the little touches that all these characters bring to bounce off of other characters in the world to make it more realized and fleshed out. And just the care that Tony Gilroy and Beau Willimon and others that are making this are just, again, I don't need all of Star Wars to be like this, but damn, give me more of something along these lines.
Yeah. Do your skeleton crew, not totally for me, but fine. Do your Ahsokas and your things, and that's fine. And I love the Mandalorian, but yeah, also give me more of this type of stuff. Because and again, the only thing is that's kind of the downside is you can see, and especially like you're talking about the whole Bix storyline. Originally, this was going to be 5 seasons, and they cut it down to 2 seasons, and it was going to be that each season covered a year as opposed to only 3 episode arcs. And yes, we would have had the chance to really dive in and craft a little bit more of those things. And I think that's where the story kind of, suffers in its own way. Again, not to say that they're not doing an amazing job, but that was where a few things I think you could do a little bit more with, but they just don't have the time. But as for Val there, it's, on the other hand, when she says something like, yeah, I was getting reckless, and this, you could piece that year together as, yeah, she lost the love of her life, and yeah, she probably gave up. She probably took a lot of risks after that, almost looking for death, and then realized that she needed to step back and there was more that she could do and she didn't have to just, like, you're right. What they do with what they have is so good. Most of the time we can fill in those spaces, narratively as much as is necessary to propel things forward. There's only a few parts where we kind of leave. And obviously, as someone who is enjoying the hell out of this, God, to have gotten 5 seasons of this, just please learn from this, Disney, and give us more of things. Not all of Star Wars has to be like this. In fact, don't. make all of Star Wars like this, but allow this type of storytelling to exist within that universe. And I think that that's how you keep fans from kid to adult, as you find a way to appeal to them all.
And now that now with the spaces in between these years, now they'll just probably put them into comic books. They have all kinds of ways to fill in the gaps. They can make an Andor video game where it's, this is what took place between, BB3 and BB2, like after they blew up the dude and before he got the blaster wound, like there's all kinds of ways that they can fill in the gaps here. And I'm glad that they didn't, like when you say 5 seasons, I was like, let's try 3. Give me 3. One more year of this, one more season of this, I would have been fine. Because just realistically, but
sure, I hear
what we have, looking at what we have and what we're not going to have. So we're not going to have another season. Those gaps, I love to be able to fill them with whatever I want. And like I said, the only problem that I had was that the big storyline, I think, is because of that suffered.
Right.
And that we were shown one thing, and since there's such a big gap, and we just suddenly, she's better. And then I'm leaving. Pretty anticlimactic for a character who was really interesting, really capable. The actress was phenomenal. And so again, that's the only complaint I have really about so far is that and the usual tropes and cliches that almost every show is guilty of that do sometimes take me out of this. But other than that, and then again, those are minor things.
Very minor
things that when you add up the whole, they're really not that big a deal. But they're worth mentioning just because they are there.
All right. Well, Bill and Rena has joined us in the chat, and we got so caught up with our things we didn't really mention much. Bill Casey was all talking repetition as they're hitting points, which is quite right, Bill. Rena also not a huge fan of the Bix storyline, but felt that the
healer,
Force healer, definitely had shades of Wheels of Time, which yes, I completely agree. And that series actually has gotten so much better over the past couple of seasons. I've really gotten to enjoy that one. But yeah, that will pretty much wrap us up. Next week, we will have our final 3 episodes of Andor. Kind of sad about that, but I mean, it's been a hell of a journey, so I'm really curious how they're going to link our 2 little final points here. Probably a lot of K2SO, and maybe we will get a satisfying conclusion to the whole Bix Andor relationship or storyline in a way that feels right. That's my guess, and we got to see what the fallout from all of this is. So many potential storylines. Which ones are they going to cover? We'll find out next week, right here at D's Reviews. I don't have anything else planned afterwards, so you will just be seeing me over on this guy's channel here as we talk about The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, we'll have like 2 more weeks of that after Andor ends. And then even I don't know what's going on. So well, the next 3 weeks we're covered. And then after that, scramble.
Yeah. We have to look at my TV guide, find out what's coming on. Yeah, that dates me, folks. That dates me.
I wish I still had a TV guide. I love doing the crossword
graphs.
The cheers and jeers section, man.
Yeah, gosh,
bring that back.
Oh well, journalism has gone down the tubes, folks. We don't even have a TV guide anymore. But yeah, that'll wrap us up. Thank you so much for joining. Be sure to like and subscribe. And I forgot to say, today's 17 years of D's Reviews. That's freaking crazy.
17?
I just got that my channel is 17 years old today.
Wow.
Man, I'm old.
Mine started 10 years ago on the day that I saw The Force Awakens.
That seems an appropriate anniversary. Oh, thank you, Bill. Wishing me happy anniversary.
Yeah, that's when mine started. That's just burned in my memory. The very first short I did was I came home and I talked about The Force Awakens real fast. Real dumb.
Yeah.
I was a real dumbass. But
17 years.
It's where you had to start somewhere. I don't know. What was your first video?
Well, I must have started my YouTube channel 17 years ago, because I think I started these reviews 10 years ago in 2015, if I remember. It was I think it was the first year of Fear the Walking Dead is when I finally jumped in. It was like the second or third season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was like, I just want to talk about this show. So, yeah. Wow. Okay. So my channel but it's still 10 years doing these reviews, man. Long time. Glad I got some cool people I get to talk to and great audience members to enjoy. So that's going to be it for us, folks. So long. Take care. And as always, watch out for those Nazis.